Well, hello, everybody. Steve Backlund here, Igniting Hope Ministries. And I have one of my favorite people on the planet with me to join us today as we talk about the culture of empowerment, a new book, and of course, my beloved brother, Phil. Good to see you, Phil.
Good to see you, Steve, and it's great to be here with you on this Friday. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, and we're doing, as you know, a 2-week blitz of promoting the book. This is a new version of an older book that we wrote maybe three. Oh, you got yours too. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just the culture of empowerment, business and organizational version. And this is so exciting. How to build big people, and we had so much fun working on this. We wrote an original book probably 4 or 5 years ago called The Culture of Empowerment. And that was a thrilling book. But then we said we want to reach even a greater market with this. And so, Phil, thank you. And, we discovered before we wrote the original book, we kind of discovered something about each other that caused us to make the decision to write the book.
Yes, we did. Well, first, I want to give a shout out to your team for this week and next week. I really appreciate everything, the efforts that people are putting into it. Ash and Michelle, you and Henry, you, Connie, it's all been great this week on their testimonies, their words, been really, really cool. And next week, the same thing. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of it. And I'm really thankful to them for doing all that they've done for this.
Thank you, Phil. I've got a great team, and just them sharing yesterday. Ash and Michelle, Connie shared on Wednesday. Henry was with me, who's one of my third-year students, assisting me. A great business owner from Brazil who's brought his expertise into what we're doing as well. And yeah, it's a good group. So really Phil, just let's talk about that realization that both of us had and that led to us writing the book and doing the course.
Well, we've taken little different paths in our careers, you through the ministry and me through higher education. And I know you and your ministry have always been really involved in developing people, helping them see themselves, helping them grow. And in my role as a professor, ever since I began that years and years ago, that's been my interest as well. I love working with kids that age of student, and really I focused on leadership a lot. I worked with student body governments. I worked with different kinds of student clubs and different leadership positions in university. So in addition to teaching communication, I had that focus on what's leadership all about? What's a good leader? How to run a good meeting? How to help people get better at what they do? And then you and I 15, 20 years ago, started talking about those kinds of things. And over the course of a few years, came to realize that, hey, we've got a lot of the same background, a lot of the same ideas, a lot of the same goals when it comes to people and people development, mentoring, coaching, empowering. And as we talked about that more, kind of the light went off. Hey, yeah, let's do something together. That has been great since we started it. I really loved every minute of it.
I have too, and we in the writing and then in the filming of the course, we had so much fun just bouncing back off each other. We're blending our strengths, blending our experiences, the ideas, the revelation, so to speak, that we have. Some of our stories of the good, the bad of our own leadership or being under other leaders, and it's really just the heart of just the subtitle is how to build big people. My goal is not to build a big organization, but to build big people. By the way, we just want to welcome those who are on right now live. We know there's going to be many of you watching the recording. But if you're on live and you would like to ask us a question that could be answered today, or if you want to send to info@ignitinghope.com, you want to send a question to be answered next week. If you're watching the recording, we want to just, I want to mention that, but specifically today, I've got Phil on with me. And so if there's something that you would like to have him speak into, or both of us, that we give you that opportunity. So as we talk, Phil, the subtitle is How to Build Big People. I'll say it again, my goal is not to build a big organization, but to build big people.
Yep, absolutely.
And that focus of empowerment, so the purpose of leadership is not just to create slaves and use the fear of punishment and guilt and manipulation to try to get people to serve the organization, which we would say is a poor leadership model, but it's a heart of a leader who not only has great vision, great goals, but is really focused on the development of people. And that's, you and I, we've both got a passion for that.
We do. One of the greatest joys I had as a teacher was just watching that development. Sometimes, getting a student as a freshman, watching them graduate, and in the course of those 3 or 4 years, seeing how they developed, see what they learned, and watching them become really different than they were at when they started the program. So seeing that development is one of the things that just gave me so much pleasure and joy as a teacher. One of those things that really motivated me to keep going in what we were doing. One of the things I'm sure we mentioned this before, but in the first chapter, a leader working themselves out of a job. Yep. And as a teacher, one thing I wanted to do is turn over as much learning in the class to the students, working myself out of a job as a teacher. So they were doing more self-directed learning. And I know your work for decades has been totally about that. Working yourself out of a job with all the interns you've had, so they take over more responsibility, they grow, they develop. So all of the things we want to do about change and transferring the source of that change, not from just us, but to the people we're working with, so they can become change agents and empower themselves to make a difference in the world.
Absolutely. And it's really, you think about why would someone want to read this book? Why would someone want to take the course? By the way, during these 2 weeks, we've got 40% off on the book on Amazon and 50% off the course on ignitinghopeacademy.com. And so we're wanting to use this time to give people an opportunity to just really jump on board. And, we ask, okay, why is what we teach so important? I think one of the things you didn't mention directly there, but it's personal fulfillment. Yeah. It is, instead of leaving a trail of wreckage behind us in relationships, and that's no fun. No matter how much we try to pretend that doesn't exist, that's gonna hinder our fulfillment. And when we see people, like you said, you talk about your students, or I talk about my interns, or people within the church that I've led, and they start to do things, and they start to, believe they can do it, and become what they never thought they could become, and rise up. That is a great fulfillment, because when we get to the end of our lives, and I've said this week, we're not going to say, wow, I wish I would have written more books, spent more time in the office.
Right, we're not going to say that.
No, it's all going to be, wow, what about relationships? And obviously our faith in God is number one, but it's the people. It's people, it's family. It's the people that we connect with daily, but the people in our organization. We want to be a safe leader. We want to be someone they can trust. And that is going to be, maybe our motivation isn't our own fulfillment, but it's going to bring that to our lives.
Well, you touched on two things that are really important to me and to my wife, Judy. One of the things that we have done over the years is work with schools in China. And it's all about relationships. I mean, it's developing the relationships. Change comes through good, loving, caring relationships where people feel supported. And the idea of psychological safety, so people feel safe with us. When people feel psychologically safe, when they feel secure, then they can grow. People don't grow when you attack them. People don't grow when you point out their faults all the time. People grow with support. People grow with feeling like, oh yeah, I can work with Steve, feel safe around him. So those two kind of concepts, working on that relationship and giving people the space to grow, and the support to grow. That's the thing that strikes me about both of our paths over these years, is that the focus isn't on you. You know, you've built a great organization. I had a lot of fun as a teacher, but the focus is on, yeah, let's work on those, let's help those people. Let's
Yeah.
really serve them and really help them become empowered.
You're talking about trust, because if we're not, trust is really the currency of influence.
Yes.
If people don't trust us as their leader, and we have a history of not following through, we have a history of treating people poorly, we have a history of being moody, and you never know, okay, how's Steve going to be today? And we have a history of not taking ownership for things, not apologizing, not saying I was wrong, please forgive me. Then we're really, again, our leadership is going to be, we're probably going to have to use some unhealthy mechanisms to get people to accomplish what we think they should under our leadership.
Yeah, one of the things you pointed out there has to do with, as a leader, being open to change. You know, as a parent, being open to change, letting our kids change their mind if they give us sufficient reasoning. What we don't want to be is the kind of leader where our followers might say, oh, what's the use of talking to Phil about that? He'll never change his mind. I'm sure you've been in situations where you've felt that about people. There's no point in talking to them about that. They won't listen. That's a death knell as a leader. You never want to be in a situation where your people are saying that about you. And part of that is effective listening. In the book, we have a great chapter on listening and how valuable.
We do. So you are the main contributor. I love that chapter on listening.
I do too, because like I said in the chapter, it's the most overestimated skill of anything. More people think they're good listeners when they're not than anything else. So being a good listener and being open to being influenced by other people, that you can change your mind if you're given the right kind of information, persuasion. That all helps build that, what we term in the book, efficacy. So people feel like, yeah, it makes a difference. If I say something to Steve about that, he might change his mind. And that's a good feeling. And that's an empowering feeling.
Well, yeah, I want to go off on that, because empowering leaders allow themselves to be influenced.
Yes,
they
absolutely.
ask their team members, what do you think? They know how to get buy-in. They're not just, as a leader, deciding and announcing what's going to happen. And so, Phil, we got one question here so far. This is a fun one. This is from Matthew. Phil, what was it like writing this book with Steve?
What was it like? It was horrible.
It was horrible. Yeah, I didn't empower you. You didn't empower me.
Oh, no, it was great. We talked initially about the first edition and talked about possible topics, and basically said, okay, you work on these, I'll work on those. Then we shared things back and forth. Came out to be really a good product, I thought. And then we talked about, okay, what's next? What do we do next? We liked the first experience so much that we don't want to stop. We want to keep going. So what's our next project? And so it became the book that you have now. And we did the same kind of pattern. Each of us had chapters we were basically responsible for, shared them back and forth. And Steve's team did some editing for us and gave us great suggestions. And I really appreciate, again, Steve's team for all the behind the scenes work that happened, all in the publication, all in the distribution, setting up things on Amazon. So actually I had a pretty easy job. I just got to write and work with Steve on the writing. No, it was a really enjoyable process. And again, I don't want it to be over. So we'll work on the next project someplace.
Yes. Love working with you. And by the way, please feel free to ask any other question. Phil, and one of the things that we did, and that, we mentioned both the book and then the course, we developed a 12-week online course.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And we did our podcasts together on that. So it's 12 weeks. It's probably the commitment to do the course is 2-3 hours a week, if that. And there's reading, then we have a weekly video. And then you and I did 3 podcasts together on the 12 topics that we did. And that was just fun, where we, whether we did the whole week on listening or public speaking or empowering meetings or empowering beliefs, empowering language, all the different weeks. And it was really a great experience for both of us. Just,
It was.
we didn't really overly plan. It was more of a
No.
spontaneous going back and forth like we are right now. But we did that course in the summer, and with just a little extra feature of you and I being on every week, or I think we were on every week. Was it?
Yeah, we were on live Zoom every week with
Yeah.
the people taking the class. That was a lot of fun. I really looked forward to those hour sessions every Thursday morning, get together
Yes.
with class and talk about what they're reacting to, what questions they had. Everybody was so excited and so interested, and being able to feed off of that and talk about the topics, it was a lot of fun.
And so, I mean, that feature won't be available of you and I being on every week on this thing, but what we're doing here with the course. But the heart of what we share in those podcasts and videos, especially, I think are such a great supplement to the book, and for leaders and for leadership teams. I know different teams were involved and have done this. And so it's like a 12-week flood of empowerment thinking. And, Phil, it's not just even people who aren't leading an organization yet. The principles in the book and course are going to help people do relationships. And if we do relationships well, and we are an empowering person, because empowerment is not just a leadership style, it's a lifestyle. If we do empowerment, we live it, I believe it's going to not be long before someone's going to put a leadership title on us. They're going to say, we need you.
No, I think you're absolutely right. The book and the course aren't designed just for people who are currently leaders, but people who think, maybe I could be a leader. Maybe I could take a position that has some influence. So there's a lot of things in the book about how to, in terms of our beliefs about ourselves, our beliefs about others, our own communication skills, our own relationship abilities, and ideas about how to be an effective participant, an effective follower of a leader. We all have to be a follower at some point in time. So how do you do that well? Well, a lot of the things that we have in the book are effective ideas about followership. And as you just said, as we do that effectively, as we become known as someone in the group who's trustworthy, reliable, that people will say, and we have a chapter about this, being chosen. Someone will reach out and say, Steve, I want you to help me with this.
Yes.
And bring you on. And so the things that are in the book about how to be chosen and how to become an empowering person, not just an empowering leader, but an empowering person, will help set you up for leadership all kinds of ways and all kinds of situations.
Absolutely. Phil, we got another question here. Let me find it. From Rashida. She asks, what did your process look like to become empowering leaders?
I'll let you take that one first, Steve.
Well, obviously we could take a few hours on that.
Yeah, we're good.
But just the bullet points of that, the process with me. I mean, one was relationship with Wendy. Wendy and I, we have similar core values, but we're very different in some other ways. And just really overcoming the frustration that we had with each other. And just figuring out, from my perspective, how do I give her unconditional love? How do I inspire somebody who's different than me? And so that was really a key. And then I've coached a lot of sports, and that taught me many things as well, because you got different personalities on a team. You want them to work together as a team. You want to inspire them. You want to improve them. Leading in church, I've joked, I said, in prayer to the Lord, as the complaining to God about my people. So if I had better people, I could really do something. And then he said, Steve, Steve, you're your people's biggest problem. They've got enough problems, let alone having a leader who doesn't believe in them and have hope for them and just sees them according to their past. rather than according to their potential. And it hasn't just trusting people. And certainly we're not saying, Phil, that we never have to make hard decisions. We're not saying we never fire somebody. We're not saying we never have brave communication where, you know what you're doing is unacceptable here. And if you want to remain in this environment, that can't continue. And learning those skills, but even in how we confront and how we might let somebody go is all affected by a belief in people and wanting the greatest good for the people within our lives. So that's some of the things that have happened in me, and I'm still learning, I'm still growing, as I know you are.
Well, for me, it began back when I was in college, learning a little bit about leadership there, but it came into focus in family. And I know you and I share a really strong value in family. So Judy and I have 3 sons, and the whole notion of developing our children, developing them into effective human beings, and what we could do to become that kind of person, that kind of parent that really supported the development of our kids. And that was a lot of fun. I learned a lot through that. And the same thing happened through university, trying to work with a student who, as a freshman or sophomore, was this non-confident, shy, didn't know what they could do person, to develop their abilities, develop their skills, develop their confidence. That kind of nurturing was really instrumental in how I started looking at leadership and looking at the empowerment and looking at the whole notion of building, as we say, building big people. That's been the fun part of it.
So Phil, here's a question that Eunice is asking that I think you are going to like. She asks, how do you empower parents who've lost faith in seeing the changes of their children towards study? I guess the question is whether you are a parent who's maybe your child is not doing well in school and you've just lost faith that there ever can be a change. How do you empower yourself, and how do you empower your child?
That's a really good question, and a tough one. One of the things that happens with a lot of parents, a lot of kids, is that the parents have goals for their children that the children don't have for themselves. And that's a source of a conversation. One of the things too is being able to let that child know that no matter what happens, I love you. Unconditional love is the basis of it all. And the child knowing that fundamentally you have their best interests at heart. And kids go through different stages. And one of the things to realize as a parent is whatever stage they're in isn't the stage they're going to stay in. Sometimes we're really frustrated at a particular point in time and think, oh my God, they're going to be like this the rest of their lives. No, probably in a month, things will evolve a little bit. Things will continue to evolve. Just giving positive support, talking about your goals, talking about what their vision is for themselves. Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? I don't know. I can't figure that out yet. Well, that's okay. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's look at possibilities. But sometimes parents get so intense about, oh, it's going wrong. I got to fix it right now. No, maybe not. Look at it, work with it, maybe not pushing too hard. But again, having that underlying source of consistent support, consistent love, consistent listening, that's what you have to do as a parent is, what are they saying? What's their interest? What do they want? Being a good listener to your child will help them examine their own feelings and thoughts and help them develop. Don't get too impatient about changing what they're doing.
What you're saying there is, I sense is bringing peace to some parents, and because our stress over the situation, our anxiety, are the messages that we tend to maybe send our child in those moments aren't the messages we really want them to hear. And so your focus on unconditional love, heart connection is the priority before any other implementations of strategies are done. Very good. Hey, Cindy is on here and she said, I just got the book and reading it. Yesterday, I practiced what I read with my adult daughter and was amazed at the results. Both of my daughters are going to read the book too.
Wow,
Hey, Cindy, if you could put in the chat what you actually did.
that'd be cool. Yeah.
Just, if that's possible. We got a few more minutes here. So if you could do that. Very good. Phil, just, looking at the chapters and this book, some of those who are watching read our original book. And so this book is a little different. It takes certainly the main concepts of that book. We do add additional content in here. And there's an additional chapter on empowerment and other cultures that we added that I know that we're both excited about that we got in there.
Yes.
Anything else you want to say just about this book and the difference between the first one?
I think this one has gone into a little more depth in some of the aspects of it, a little bit more depth in some of the communication things. I think we have more, as you say, more emphasis on culture. And I really like that chapter and have its place in the book, because look at the world. We're dealing with people who don't look like us all the time, and that's great. But there are people who are kind of nervous about that. So I think the chapter that we've done there will give some insights and some ideas. And I think we've strengthened the material on beliefs and belief systems and believing in ourselves and believing in others as a basis for how it all works out. And one thing I really do think that in these days, it's really easy example to find examples of leaders who are not empowering others. And one of the things I think both of us have as a value is, let's see what we can do about that and help others focus more on other people rather than themselves and empower others. That, I think, is one of the fundamental things both you and I have about the value of this book and the value of what's going on in people's lives.
And we just invite you all to pray for this book, for the course, and just because we do believe and just such a great need right now for strong, healthy, empowering leadership in the home, in organizations, in business, in the church, in government, and beyond.
Yep.
And I believe that there's just a revolution of leaders that are going to rise up in a good way. And you who are watching, I believe, are a part of that. And so these 2 weeks where we're emphasizing this, I'll be back next week on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to just talk more into this. So these 2 weeks, our book, The Culture of Empowerment, Business and Organizational Version, is available on Amazon for 40% off. And then our course on ignitinghopeacademy.com is available for 50% off. And we want to just give that as an opportunity for you to get that. Maybe it's a good Christmas present for somebody. I don't know, Phil, if somebody has what they perceive as a bad leader over them, just saying, hey, I think you need this as a present. But yes, looks like I lost Phil. Let's see here. Well, we're going to wrap up. We are going to wrap up. And I'm so thankful. Yep. Phil will probably get back on here in a moment to say goodbye. The joys of internet and all this, but what a joy it is to be able to speak to you, regardless of whether you want the book or course. I mean, that's fine. If it's not in your season for that, that's great. But even you're watching this today, we just believe that it's going to empower you to become just even a greater influence in your environments. But some of you, this is going to be a key. This is going to be a key for your leadership, and it's and so yes, it's good. All right, let's unmute you. There we go.
Yeah. So for a moment there, you froze, and now you're back. Good.
I'm back. So I don't know who froze, you froze, I froze. It looked like it kept going with me, but we will see what
Good.
happens.
Yeah, maybe it just froze at my end. I'm glad you're able to keep going.
Phil, we're
Dave,
wrapping this up. Thank you so much for
thank
taking the
you.
time. Thank you for being a good big brother to me. And thank you for your heart for leadership and just what you've just sown in so many people's lives during the years. And you and I we're just excited about this. And
We are. Yep.
thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to work with you on all of this. It's been fantastic. I've loved it because you are such an inspiration to so many people out there. You do great work.
Well, thank you so much. Your words encourage me. Your words, like at the back of the book, we've got, have you ever been championed by someone, a person who believed in you more than you believed in yourself and told you, you can do it. You can do it. And that is, your words help me there. I can do it and you can too. All right, everybody. I'll be back next week.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye-bye.